Hello and welcome to the 10th part in this series that I'm doing on Windows 10 in the enterprise. So in previous hangouts, we've talked about different technologies that you can use with Windows 10. We've talked about forward redirection. The very last recording I did, we talked about user experience virtualization, and we went into a bit of demonstration on that. I think we did a two-part demonstration on that. So in this particular recording, I'll be demonstrating how to use USMT. So just to reiterate what we've mentioned before, that this series it's a pure demonstration series. So we won't be going into too much details theoretically. We have a different forum for that. But for this one, we'll be concentrating mainly on demonstrating how that feature works, how that technology works, how it can be implemented. So in this one, we're talking about USMT, which is User State Migration Tool. So it's a tool that comes with Microsoft Windows ADK. So if you download Windows ADK 10, it comes with USMT 10, and then you can make use of it that way. So the lab environment that I've got for today, you can see I have a PC called Launch Client 1, which is a Windows 10 PC, and I have another PC called Launch Client 3, which is a Windows 7 PC, and then I have a domain controller / DNS server, all connected to the same network. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be migrating the user state um, environment from Launch Client 3 over to Launch Client 1, which is kind of the thing that you have in your environment for a refresh scenario, which is basically you have the same hardware, but you're putting a new operating system on it. So let's say you have a Windows 7, you have a hardware that has Windows 7 on it, or Windows 8 on it, or Windows 8.1 on it, and you want to move the user to Windows 10. Or you want a replace scenario where you have a completely new hardware. So you have a user with an existing hardware, or maybe they're on Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, and they want to move over to a new hardware that's on Windows 10. So those are the kind of scenarios where USMT can come in to help you. And it's kind of like an enterprise level tool because it works with command lines. And of course, anything that works with command lines, what that means is it's scalable. So it can be massive, you can scale quickly, and you can scale, you can have like a massive scale, and you can do bulk migrations, mass migrations for hundreds or even thousands of computers, depending on the capacity that you have in your environment. Okay, so let's get to this one today. So first thing I'll do is I'll log on to Launch Client 1. We'll capture the user state, and then and do the same thing and then move that to Launch Client 1. So let's go to Launch Client 3 first of all. So our login here has a user called Don. So that should be very quick. Yep, we're logged in as a user called Don now. Okay, so the very first thing that we want to do is just to observe what the environment looks like for Don. So this is Don's existing computer. So this scenario is more of like a replace scenario. So Don has this computer which is Windows 7 on a different hardware. We're moving Don to a different computer which has Windows 10, which is a different hardware also. So let's see what this environment looks like. You can see it has a black desktop. So we'll observe that. So we have this folder on the desktop called Don Funk. The home folder, we have the computer icon here. We have the recycle bin icon here. So all we'll just do is we just create a text file on this desktop. We'll call it Don Funk desktop, and I'll leave that there. So we have that on the desktop for Don Funk. Okay. And the other thing that I want to see on this computer is if I go under the C drive, we have this research apps folder here, and you can see the contents of this folder. So this is a folder that's not part of like the Windows default folders. It's a folder that Don must have created, or someone using this computer must have created here. So we'll just make a mental note of that. So if I drill down here and go on the users and go under the public folder there, if I go on document, it's empty. What I'll do is I'll just create a new text file. And I'll call this Windows 7 public document. I'll go on the public music and do the same thing. Create a new text file also. And I'll call this Win7 public music. And the reason for doing this is I'll be showing a scenario where if you want to migrate files from particular folders and you don't want to migrate files from other folders, how you can control that. So the very first thing that I will do is I already have USMT. So again, remember that you have to have Windows ADK already installed on a computer somewhere. And after installing Windows ADK, if you go to C program files where Windows ADK is installed, um, if you drill down into that, there will be a folder there called user state migration tools. So you need to copy those tools somewhere. So in my own situation, I've already copied those tools to the domain controller. It's LONDC1, and if I go USMT here, I've just copied all the content of that folder here. So USMT itself, it's really it's a basic tool. In terms of understanding it or understanding the core concept, because it can get really complicated if you drill down to creating custom template files. But just to make it as simple as possible, it's a collection of tools, and then it's a collection of templates. So three main tools that you have. For example, you have this tool here called loadstate.exe. I think two main one. You have scanstate.exe. So scanstate is just a tool that again scans the computer, collect all the files and settings that you want to migrate, and basically does the backup. Loadstate, on the other hand, is the one that takes all the files and settings that scanstate has already exported and imports them into a system. So that are the two core files, and then you have all these different XML files, which are template files, which defines what will be migrated, what will not be migrated, and stuff like that. And we'll show a bit of demonstration of that. So one of the things that you have to do or make note of whenever you're using USMTs, you have to be logged in as an administrator to use it. So again, let's just make a mental note of what we have now. So we have all this thing on the desktop. We have created this document, Win7 public music, Win7 public document. We know that under the C drive, we have this folder called research apps. Another thing that I will just quickly show, if that will come up. Yeah, if I expand this and I expand users, you see that there are two local user accounts, one called local admin, one called student. So we'll make a mental note of all that, and then I'll sign out and sign in. And the reason for me signing out now is because to use USMT on a machine, you have to be logged in as an administrator on that machine. So as a minimum requirement, you need local administrative rights. So I'll log in as an administrator. So that should be quick. Yep, nice. And then let's bring up the command prompt. Again, remember what I said, the USMT is already been copied here. Run this one net logon, and I'll say USMT, and there we go. So what I'll just do is I'll just map the drive, map a local drive with that. Let's use F drive. The location completed successfully. I go to my computer, now have the F drive mapped with all these tools and templates in it. Okay, so first thing I'll do is I'll create a custom config file. Again, the config file is what defines what will be migrated. So I'll create a custom config file. Go scan state because it's already, so first of all, I need to go to the F drive. Scan state, there we go. So we got scan state /hi MigApp.xml /hi miguser.xml and /genconfig is the switch, and I'll say config.xml. I press enter. So what this would do, it's not actually scanning any settings. What it's doing is it's going to create a custom config file which I can modify um, to define the behavior of USMT, what will be migrated, what will not be migrated. So this may take a few minutes, so I'll just pause the recording and come back once it's finished. Okay, so the creation of the custom config file is finished. So what I can do is just open it with Notepad. To view its content, and you can see, so what this content is basically showing are the things that will actually be migrated, and these are the things that will be migrated by default. So you can see a lot of settings, a lot of files. If you scroll down, you see different locations that will be migrated here. My pictures, my documents, my music, shared document, shared desktop, shared pictures. So what I can do, for example, is remember that I created a shared music document called Win7 public music. So if I don't want that particular folder to be migrated, I can put a no here instead of a yes. And for any one of these I do want to migrate, I can just change them to a no, and that means that location will not be migrated. And I can save this. So the other thing I want to point out is there's another file here. So if I go notepad folders.xml. So here's a file, and that I'll be using to migrate this custom folder here. So this folder, it's not a folder, it's not a location that's migrated by default. Okay, remember that this is a folder that's been created either by an admin user that's used the system in the past or by defunct that's using the system. So to migrate this, I have to use a separate template file. So in this case, I'll be using this template file called folders.xml. I'll replace folder name here with the name of the folder that I want to migrate. I have to make sure I get it right, and then I'll save that. So now I have my template files ready. So after this, in this case, I'll go ahead and begin to do the migration then. So let's go back to the command line. Show you something first. If I go to learn DC1 make start, yeah. So this is a shared folder that I've created, or that's been created as the location for the settings and the files that we migrated. So that's where the target is, and you can see that it's currently empty. So what I'll do is I'll just type what the syntax that I'll be using is. So scan states.exe. I'll specify what the target is, which is learn DC1 mixstop, and then specify what templates I'll be using. MigApp.xml /hi. So actually, before I do that, I've already showed you that we have two local users, local admin and student. Yeah, so I already showed you that in the past. If we go miguser.xml, let's make sure we get that right. /i, let's use the default or the custom template that we created for migrating the research apps folder. So which is folders.xml /config.xml. Then in this case, I'll be using a special switch, and the purpose for using this switch is to exclude an account from being migrated. Let me show you what I mean by that. So if I go on the manager and I bring up the users or the local users on this computer. So you can see there's this local profile for local admin and there's another local profile for student. So if I don't want to migrate this particular profile, I can use this switch /UE to exclude the profile that I don't want to migrate. So in this case, I don't want to migrate the local admin profile. So I'll go computer name variable local admin /0. And then if I press enter to that, it's going to begin the process. So it's going to actually do the scan and capture the settings. So you can see this folder is currently empty now, but then now it's got a folder in it. So it's doing the migration now. So this will take a while because there are a few things to migrate. But while it's doing the whole migration, let's go over to Learn Client 1, which is the destination, which is the Windows 10 computer. So I'm on Learn Client 1 now. I'll log in as the administrator on Learn Client 1. And again, what we'll just do, while this migration is going on Learn Client 3, what we'll do is we'll just observe what the situation is on Learn Client 1. So we'll observe what folders are currently there, what settings are currently there, what local accounts are currently there. And then by the time we do load states to load the exported files and settings from Learn Client 3, by the time we do a load state, we can compare what's been migrated, what's not been migrated. So yeah, so I'm on Learn Client 1 now, logged in as an administrator. So one of the things I want to do is if you look on this taskbar, you notice that there's no Windows Media Player there. So on the other one, on Learn Client 3, when we logged in as done, if you notice, there's a Windows Media Player icon on the taskbar. So it's one of the things we'll be looking for after we complete the migration. So the other thing I'll do is go to the C drive. We notice that there's no research apps here. Let's go under computer management. Let's see which local users do we have. And then why it's doing that also. Okay, here we go. So local users. So you can see that there's no local admin user and there's a student user already. There's no local admin user. Okay. So the other thing we can do is go under expand the C drive, expand the users. Let's go under the public document and let's see what's currently there. Yeah, it's empty. Public music is also empty. See, Learn Client 2 is still doing its thing. So I'll pause the recording again and I'll come back once it's completed. Okay, so scan state is finished. Scanning the state of this machine and exporting it to our target location here. So what I'll be doing is going over to Learn Client 1 here, which is where we want to import the files and settings. And we'll be doing just that. So first thing I'll do is I'll go again. Let's use F drive, learn DC1, and in this case I'll say USMT, and then we should be able to have the F drive here. Yeah, okay. So what I'll do is then go browse to the F drive same as before, but in this case we'll be using the load state. So what we'll be doing is we'll be loading learn DC1 migration store. So we'll be loading the files and settings that are contained in this migration file onto this computer. Okay. Learn DC1 migration store /i So that will begin the process of importing the migration or the settings and the files and the migration file. So that will take a while to complete also. So I'll pause the recording shortly. And then once I come back or after I come back, then we'll verify if the settings that we expected to migrate over have migrated over, and if the settings that we expected to have been skipped have been skipped. So see you in a few minutes. Okay, so load state is completed now, and actually we could verify without logging out or logging back in. So the very first thing that we can see from right here, if I refresh this, is that the local admin account hasn't been migrated to Learn Client 1. And the reason for that is simple. It's because in the command line switch that we used for the migration, we specifically used this switch to exclude the local admin account. So that's why the account wasn't migrated. So going back again, if we go to the C drive, and then let's go under the C drive. Now we can see the search apps has been migrated because the reason for that is also simple because we used this template /hi/folders.xml, which specifies the migration of C research apps to migrate that particular folder. Okay, so the other thing that we can confirm is we can go under the C drive, on the users, on the public, and we can see on the public document, and we have Win7 public document migrated. If we go under public music, there's no Win7 public music. And the reason for that is also simple. It's because in the config.xml file, if you remember, I specifically changed the yes to no for shared music, which is why shared music, that particular document wasn't migrated. So the last confirmation that we'll do, show the desktop, is I actually log out as an administrator or as the administrator, and then log back in as done. And let's see what the environment, the settings looks like for done when we log in. So logging in as done may take a while because we have the login animation still enabled. So I may have to pause the recording and then come back once it finishes the whole animation stuff. Yeah, okay. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so now fully logged back in as done on Learn Client 1 now, and you can see the text file that we create on the desktop is on the desktop here also. We can see, because it's my computer on Windows 7, but this PC on Windows 10, so we can see there. We can see the home folder here on the desktop. We can see the Recycle bin here also on the desktop, and we can see the Windows Media Player right here on the taskbar. So that's all completed then. So that's how you use USMT manually, or that's just show a demonstration of what USMT does for you. Now, I will say in most organizations, what you typically do is use USMT that's controlled via MDT or SCCM, and that's because that allows you to scale massively beyond having to run these commands manually. But then knowing this whole process and knowing how to run these commands can help you when you're testing different templates for different things that could be migrated, and so that can be helpful for that scenario. So I hope you've enjoyed this particular demonstration, and I'll see you in the very next demonstration. Thanks very much.